notice from the street, dirty and so on. We just pass a door and we are in another world. That's a French property. It's a monastery, and the order here are called the White Fathers. It's a missionary order, Catholic missionary order. And I just saw a White Father entering the church. They close normally because they are doing their service and everything. So we promise we're not going to the church. We did not intend anyway to go into the church. And we're coming mostly for the archaeological excavations. We have a very interesting place. The place is here is called Saint Anne. Saint Anne. Who is Anne? Who is Saint Anne?
Mother of Mary.
If you are Catholic, you know. It's according to tradition, the Mother of Mary. So, what is so important here? The Catholics believe that is the birthplace of Virgin Mary. So it's named after her mother, Saint Anne. It's the birthplace of Virgin Mary. So that's one tradition. And the Crusader built a magnificent church on top, what you see here. The church here. It's standing still. The Crusader, the Muslim, Saladin, when capturing Jerusalem, turned the church into a Quranic school. So it was preserved. And then in about the 1860s, the French government acquired the place from the Ottoman. Hello?
Hello.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So when I say, so the French government acquired the place from the Ottoman and restored the place and made it a church again. So that's what we have here. And of course they started archaeological excavation. And then they knew that it was tradition, it was the pool of Bethesda, but they made serious excavation. And then today we can say for sure we have found the pool of Bethesda. Not always, remember, the archaeological excavation matched the text of the Bible. Remember that, that's a big problem. Here we have a match, which means we're going to see what remains of the pool of Bethesda. And the pool of Bethesda is a place where, on a Sabbath day like today, Jesus cured a paralytic. No doubt you are going to speak about.
Wow.
Sure. By coincidence. Follow me. You recognize the tree? If you take a leaf, crush it a little bit and smell it, very strong smell and very good smell. You must recognize that.
What is it?
It smells good?
Yeah.
Strong? What is it? It's called a pepper tree. Pepper. Mine's the step. No, it's not my tree. Okay. Like Barros made a remark when I told them the one father is red. And then and the party. So no, we have white father.
Not quite what you thought.
I want you to use a little bit of your imagination because when you see archaeological excavation, you have so many layers. Sometimes it's complicated to have an idea. So I want you first to see that here we have a valley, a small valley. Not the valley of the Serapean, not the Kidron Valley, and not the Hinnom Valley. The small valley, you know, that eventually runs into the Kidron. It's coming from there, from the north also. You see, the whole area of Jerusalem is tilted from north to south. So all the valleys are going that way. You understand? Makes sense. So we have a small valley coming here. What happened to this valley is just all the time filled with rubble. Remember, Jerusalem was destroyed so many times that even some valleys got filled, and we don't see them so deep. So we have a valley coming from behind the trees, coming this way, and flows eventually to the Kidron. We are very close to the Kidron. Now, when you have a valley in the past, remember, what is it good for?
Water.
For water. And again, water is not flowing like your valley, it's just a flash flood. But you want that water not to be lost. You build a dam, and then you have a pool. You have water. And almost all the valleys are dammed. And we saw the example with Adrian that when he needed to build the forum, he needed a flat place with a pavement, and there was a big pool there. He could have filled it with and continued. No, he preferred to build big arches on top of it to preserve the water reserve. So he built the forum on it, and you saw the grooves when we were walking on it to convey the rainwater into the pool that became a cistern. Remember the difference between a pool and a cistern. The pool is open. So that was here already, you know, David chose Jerusalem to be his capital. From a city of a few hundred people, or let's say a few hundred families, that was Jebus, it started to grow. It's a capital, more and more people. But it had only one spring, the spring of the Gihon spring. Remember that? The Gihon spring. Now, the population grows, the flow of the water doesn't increase. Now you start to have a problem. From that moment, they start to collect water from the roof, of course, rain, start to dam some valleys to collect water. And as Jerusalem grows, there's more and more problem. At the time of King Hezekiah, we have a major problem. And what is it? The kingdom of Israel is no more. Imagine the thousands of refugees who are coming to the kingdom of Judah. And they come and settle in around the city of David that is very small. There's no room. So they settle on what is known as the Western Hill. And that makes Jerusalem much bigger. He changes, of course, he made a new pool, a new wall to protect that quarter. And now we need more water. Part of it is a tunnel to bring the water inside the city. Remember the tunnel of Hezekiah and all that, the pool of Siloam, that's part of it. It's not enough. We still need water. That's good water for drinking. But for the animals, for washing, for ritual bath, we need a lot of water. So that valley is dammed. So a dam was built on the valley at the time of Hezekiah. We're talking of the 8th century BC. The dam is here. Guys, come. See that? You see that wall here? You see the wall? That wall is a dam. That means the pool was there. Water comes from there. The dam stops the water. Can you see the dam? Here. You can see it's made of stone. There's some big plaster on top of it that's broken. Forget about that hole. Okay? Forget about the fact that it has been cut later. There was a dam that was a pool. Now what happens over the time? It's not just water that's flowing in the valley. What else? Mud, rocks, everything. Eventually, there's less and less water, more and more mud. But what happened to also? The Babylonian arrived, there's deportation, Jerusalem doesn't need water because it's destroyed. So nobody cares about that pool that is getting filled. Later the Jews return, and in big numbers, and they start to grow, the temple is restored, now there's need for water, and then the small pool here is not enough. Why is this pool so important? We are just north of the temple. We are just north of the temple, and the water is important here. Remember, there was no pumps. You know, you had the water at the pool of Siloam, but to bring it up, almost impossible. You know, you need so much water for the temple. Are you going to send donkeys to bring by the jars? You need some water that is higher than the temple, and here we are. So that pool is important. But they say, okay, that pool is already almost filled with rubble. We need something better. So somewhere in the Hellenistic period, at the time of the Hasmonean, they decide to make a second dam, because when the water was flowing, it will overflow and continue in the valley. Let's build a second dam. And this time, to make sure it doesn't fill too much, they even deepen the ground, they cut the rock. You can see here, it's not a V-shaped valley, it's like that. They just cut to make it very deep. So that's what we are looking at, is a second pool created by a new dam that was there in the middle of the garden. It was not excavated because look how much rubble you have to remove. You see there? So the French archaeologists, they just dug around the first dam to show you how deep it is, but they did not remove all the soil from here to the end of the garden. That's the second pool. And now you have two pools. Of course, we are entering into a modern period, Greek, Roman, Now the pool is also adorned. It gets a beautiful colonnade around it so people can stay in the shade. Now the colonnade, we have a description of the pool of Bethesda. It had how many colonnades? Or porches, that depend, or porticos, according to the translations. How many? 5. We have 2 pools, 5 colonnades. How do you make it? Think, you are looking from above, you are a drone. The pools are square, side by side. First pool, second pool. 1 colonnade along the 2 pools, 1 on the other side, and 3 small. 1 on the top, and 2 on each of the dams. You have altogether 5 colonnades. Make sense? Like the digit 8. Have you noticed? 5 pieces. So it starts to make sense. And there we are with a pool which had 5 colonnades. Another hint, it was called the pool, it was close to the gate of the today we call it Lion's Gate. At that time there was the opposite, Sheep Gate. The Sheep Gate. No, Sheep Gate. Why is there a Sheep Gate?
For sacrifice. Sacrifice.
That means the sheep were brought by this gate. The Lion's Gate used to be called the Sheep Gate. And where do the sheep come from?
Bethlehem.
Not from Bethlehem. Now, where are the shepherds? We saw the shepherd when we were coming in the east, in the hills, going up to Jerusalem. The sheep gate is an eastern gate. That means easiest way to bring the sheep in, the shepherds will come to the east gate. And what do they need? You know, there's not a line of people who are buying the sheep. They have to be parked somewhere and wait for their holidays and wait for the pilgrims who are coming to buy the sheep. So what do they need? Lots of water. Hence the pool of Bethesda. Mostly for the sheep that will be used for the sacrifice. Now you understand, pilgrims who are coming from far away, they don't bring their own sheep. They come to Jerusalem and they buy them. So they come here by numbers and they buy the sheep. There was a sheep market. And what happens? There's a lot of poor people in Jerusalem. And they are coming on this holiday on purpose. For what? For all these pilgrims who are coming to Jerusalem, they are going to also give money to the poor. That's what the pilgrim does. You have money to pay for a sheep. You don't have some coins to throw to poor people. Of course you have. So there was a big number of poor people. When you are sick, you are poor, by the way. There's no social security at that time. People who are handicapped were poor. So what do? They just hang around the colonnades of the pool of Bethesda and they're waiting for a good pilgrim who will come and give them some money. That's what they do. Now, you know, not every day it happens. Not every day they are generous people. Not every day somebody's coming. So they are there waiting, just waiting, talking between each other, and maybe they develop that idea, a legend I would say, that, you know, one day I will win the lottery and I will become rich. But that's not a lottery. One day an angel will come and the water will be troubled, and if I jump into the water I will be cured. Did that happen every day? If it happened every day, there will be no sick people around the pool. It doesn't happen. That just, by the way, you know that this passage of the angel troubling the water is in the earlier version of the Bible between brackets. It means it is, yeah? Okay, if you're going to, it's again, we're not sure what's happening. But they hope, you know, and then Jesus comes and sees that man, paralytic, do you want to get well? And the guy say, no, I want to be a pauper man. I make a lot of money without working. Of course not. So do you want? So why don't you go? He said, by the time I can move a little bit, somebody has jumped into the water and they cannot do that. So you are going to go into that. Now I just want to tell you something, and that's the truth of the truth, personal experience. I was here about 40 years ago. I had a group of Catholic French. They were praying. I had mass in the church. So I had about 1 hour for myself. Normally we don't have an hour here. So I was just walking around, looking things that we don't usually see. And I meet a white father. He was there, a white father that I did not recognize. Hello, hello. He spoke French, we spoke French. And he told me that yes, he's from Switzerland and he is here only for a short period. What are you doing? He said, by trade, I'm an engineer. So I was called to come here to make the plans. All these plans here, to make all these plans for the visitors. Since I understand, I'm also archaeologist and engineer, so I can make the visitors understand better. I said, that's great, really great. He said, you have time? I said, yes, I have time. There's a place that we have, but it's not open to visitors because it's a little bit dangerous. Do you want to see? I say, of course, of course. I hesitated a moment, you know. My mother told me not to follow monks in the dark places, but then eventually...
Wise woman.
Wise woman. And he took me, he had the key to a door there that was forbidden to the public there, and he took me there inside. You know what was inside? A staircase, but a spiral staircase. Goes all the way to the bottom. I never guessed. And he told me, yes, indeed, the dam that was built by Hezekiah is not just solid stone that were thrown. There are two walls, there's filling, but in the middle they left a staircase. I say, what a staircase for? What do you need a staircase for in the middle of that big wall? And he showed me, every time we make a half turn, he showed me with his torch, like a window that was of course blocked with stones, but looked like something that there was an opening every time on the two sides. When we came out, I said, what's that? Look how clever they were. They knew that sometimes there would be so much water, the pressure on the dam might break it. So what did they do?
Exhaust valves.
Exhaust valves, you know, exactly like we have in our dams today. We open to allow the water to continue, otherwise the water will flow also over and will damage and create problems. So the best thing is to allow the water to flow through the dam. Today we put even turbines and we create electricity with that power. But they did that. He said, look at that, Hezekiah's architects make these, how do you call that? There's a few names, or maybe gates, floodgates or equivalent, to alleviate the pressure on the water. And at this moment, you know, Tito, I'm not Christian, but I had a revelation. I said, wait a minute. In the second temple period, when they added the second pool, that pool being higher than the other one, so when somebody was opening the valves there, maybe the water will be troubled on the second pool. It will start bubbling all around, without wind, without nothing. And at this moment, I saw half a smile in the face of that monk, the Catholic monk. And he said, you know, my son, we believe in the miracle that is mentioned in the Bible. And I had the feeling he was leading me to the engineer in him wanted to share what he came into a conclusion, but he did not want to say it. So he wanted to share with me, and he led me to that. So it was not a revelation, it was really him. And that's what I share with you. May it be the reason or not, I don't know. That's another thing that is interesting. Okay? So that's the two pools. Now we know we have found the pool of Bethesda. It means we are literally where Jesus cured that paralytic. And that's very difficult to say when we visit the holy places. Many of them are traditional places. So we are fortunate twice that we could come without having to return, and that we are alone here. That's great.
Amen.